All right. So worked on quite a few things. So let me see if I can recap them from the last. Let me do git log. Okay, so the last video that I posted was here when I added Svelte. So I can go against the current main up into into this one, I guess. We'll compare against that one. So let's do git diff with this. Okay, can you see the diff? Okay, so this is just me adding some README about what I wanted to work on, and I was kind of taking notes about how Hubs Mozilla has this menu at first. When the page loads, there's like 3 buttons. You can join a room, enter on a device, or you can spectate. And I kind of wanted some of that because what I noticed is that sometimes when you, in the prior versions, when I was enabling the microphone or video, sometimes it didn't work. And I think it was because we're just selecting the wrong microphone. And so I wanted to have some splash screen that was inspired by that. Some other things are anyway, so these are some notes. And then I added an app.svelte, which is the entry point to component-based stuff. So here's the app.svelte, contains a couple of components. It's got a welcome component, a mic and input component, and a menu overlay component. And then I imported some things that are necessary to receive actions. So I have a subject from RxJS, a signal event, which is a type of a shape of a message shape that we can pass back and forth between Svelte world and our orchestrator in order to call into other parts of our code without including that part of the code within Svelte world. So if you're not familiar with Svelte, Svelte is just a pre-compiler that is similar to React, except it does not require a virtual DOM. So there's no DOM diffing. But here you have a script, and you put all your JavaScript between script tags. So here's script, and I'm using TypeScript, so I include language. And then you define your JavaScript here. So I have props, which are things that you can pass down into the app component. So we take a canvas ID, which is a string, the WebRTC client, which I'm going to control whether something is muted or not strictly from within Svelte world, because that's where you click on the buttons to say mute or unmute myself.
Hold on. Svelte, did you say it's pre-compiles the JavaScript, but there's no virtual DOM?
Yeah, there's no virtual DOM.
And then what it spits out is like HTML with JavaScript with all the things hooked up?
So what it spits out is JavaScript.
Oh, with just JavaScript. Okay.
Yeah. So unlike React, when you write React, it requires the React library. So when you bundle it, you have to include React along with your code that is using React, right? But Svelte is a compiler, so you don't need to include Svelte in your bundle because it actually compiles directly to JavaScript. And you don't need to include, it doesn't do DOM diffing, which is somewhat inefficient because it takes your state and then it puts it through templates and it renders that. But it renders it in the virtual DOM and then it compares it with the actual DOM, and then it goes down every part of the tree and compares 2 sides of the tree, and then it determines what to change. But Svelte, it just creates JavaScript that it knows exactly what to change. So it doesn't do DOM diffing. So it's faster than any of the virtual DOM, and it's smaller. So the only thing is that it's a bit slightly of a different syntax. So I'll show this here. So we remember Orchestrator was the entry point to all of the front end stuff. So it would render the scene and everything, right? So all I did was I included this line here, import app from app.svelte. And then in the constructor of Orchestrator, at the bottom of the Orchestrator, I create a new app, instantiating that new app, and then I specify the target. So I just put that in document body, so it's just dropped into the page. And then props are anything I want to pass in to make it available to app. And so for every prop that's in here, Canvas ID, WebRTC client, and signals, these are things that I want to use inside apps Svelte. So in here, I defined those three things. And in Svelte, you say export, and that means that you're allowing these things to be passed in as props. So I labeled this as props. And then you can also import components, which are in here. So I made a folder called components, and each one of these can be used in here. And then here's some initial state. So here I just have some flags like, okay, did you join the state? No, you did not join the state. Should you be showing the mic and output form? And the answer is no. Should you show a menu overlay? And it's false. And so whatever, these are just states. So in the beginning, and then here are some callbacks that you can call from within the components. So this is all within script tags, which will load when the component is created. And then if you want to have conditional components, like only show this component if something is true. So here I say, if you haven't joined the space, if did join space is false. So this is kind of like PHP style tags, or I guess ERB style tags, similar. So if some condition, then show this component. So in the beginning, this is false, and this is, you haven't joined the space. So always show this one, right? So it's only going to show the welcome component. And then it's going to pass it something in the props, which I want to use in that component. So if we look at the welcome component here, again, Svelte just contains three things: script, HTML, and style. So this is styling to make a modal. And then the styles that you define here are only scoped to this welcome. So you don't have to worry about these classes interfering with other components. They only apply to this current area. So this welcome component displays a modal that says welcome, and it just has a button that says join the space. And then you can put a on-click directive, and then it will call this function. So this function is a prop that's passed in. So you can say export the joined callback, which was actually coming from the parent. So we actually pass this in from the parent. Here's the parent, welcome join callback. I'm passing it down to the child so that the child, when you click on it, it will call this function. So the function is actually defined up here. I said, okay, let's just console log that I said I called the join callback. And then it will use the signals event bus. This is RxJS subject. It will just say, send a signal to whoever cares that, oh, I joined with an empty payload. And what we do with that is we actually listen to that in the orchestrator, and then we'll connect the channel, we'll connect the socket, we'll connect the channel, we'll connect WebRTC. So what that means is when we load the web page, we used to do it automatically, but now we're not wasting that thing. So we're loading it up, and now we have a button which they have to click, and only after they click will we go do those things. And then we're going to say did join space true. Remember in the beginning, did join space was false. So when we click this true, it flips the Boolean here, and it will actually hide this component. And then we look at some other things, and we say, okay, if the microphone is not confirmed, then we'll change this status. So we'll microphone show the mic output form is false, and then we flip that to true. So what this does, and I'll just give a demo here. Let me pull up a browser. So that means when I load up a space, I go enter. There's the first component showing. So it says welcome. And we haven't connected anything. So if we look down on the console, there's no output, nothing's connected. When I click on it, it's going to do this button on click, join callback, which is passed in from the parent. The parent defined that as this function. So we should see in the console, I joined the callback. It's going to send off a signal to somebody who cares about it. And then it's going to flip this Boolean. So that modal will go away, but it's going to show another modal. It's going to flip mic, show mic, and output form, which is another component here, which again, same style, takes a confirm thing. So here I created another component called mic and output, which is again another Svelte component which takes some callbacks, and then it has some state. So this is some state, and then some functions to help whatever you need. And then it has some HTML, which is going to show two lists. One is whatever microphones you have, and two is whatever outputs you have, like speaker or headphones and things like that. And so the idea is we can put on-click events like select a microphone or select an output, and then these will call these functions like select a microphone, select an output. And what this will do will, it will use the navigator get user media, and it will switch to the device you selected. So if I demonstrate this, I'm going to click on this. You see this disappeared. It hid that first modal, and it displayed a second modal. And here's a microphone. And so I can hover over these because I added styling to them. But I can also click on them. So if I click on this one, it actually, if you look over here, it's selected the communications microphone. If I click over here, it thinks I have the Oculus set up because I have the Oculus software installed, even though I don't have my headset connected, so this won't work. But I can select it here, and over here, it thinks this is selected. So this isn't doing anything right now because I couldn't find anything in the API that actually changes this the way I need Agora supported. So it's a work in progress. But then you can click this confirm thing. And what does a confirm thing do? So if you look over here on this button, I add an on-click, confirm the mic and output, which is a function, confirm mic and output. Where is that? Okay, it's a function that I passed in from the parent. So we can go look back over there, confirm out mic, and what that does is I console log what you selected, and then I just hide the form. So I say show mic and output form is false, and then we go to ready. And ready will actually set focus. So where's my ready function? Ready will just set focus to the canvas, which means that after you click through this, and if it's ready, you can move the up, down, left, right arrow keys, and then it will be responsive, which wasn't possible before, because when we load the page and if you just start using your arrow keys, since you didn't focus on something first, it wouldn't let you do that unless you interacted with the page first. So a lot of browsers were like, you have to like have clicked something first. And so having these pop-ups give you that benefit is because you have interacted with the page, and it makes it easier to focus on things. And then we can show the overlay now. So the overlay is going to be another component, which here is just going to be the word menu, and I've styled it to be in the lower bottom left. And then I put in an on-click for a microphone state. So in the beginning, the microphone will be unmuted, and then muted, and then when you click it, it will use the WebRTC client, which I passed down as a prop, and then we can call functions on that to publish the audio or unpublish the audio. And so what that looks like is, once I confirm this, now we see over here, we have another component. So I can click on this, it's muted now, and then it goes to unmuted. So now we're publishing the audio, and then we can mute that again. And so I've kind of recreated the functionality that I did before, but now I'm using a library, whereas before I was kind of hand coding it by before, and so now it's a bit more structured with component styles, which I think is pretty cool. And it's TypeScript, and it gives me some error suggestions. So that's
when you say library, you mean Svelte, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. What if you click the menu on the bottom left? Is it the same thing as the top right?
So this doesn't do anything yet. If you look over
Oh,
here, it's just a div,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we haven't put any on click on it. So I kind of wanted to do that. I wanted to see if I could replace this with this, because these modals can't be outside of the iframe, but this one would be able to, because we wouldn't iframe it. We just create divs and modals, and it could take over the entire screen. So the idea is I want to replace this with this. So how could we do that? Well, first this sort of catches us up to this point. Do you have any questions about what this stuff does? I also made some minor adjustments to the positioning. Oh yeah, here. Okay, so I like to keep notes about what I'm doing next. So this says only enter space after you click a button. If you don't join, then you haven't joined the channel. So that is accomplished now. And then these were notes about what Hubs does, and I think I've more or less accomplished that. Enter in a device. Okay, this was an idea. I probably don't want to do that. Okay, so I have this. So if I refresh, like Command R, I need to answer all the questions again. I should save it in the session storage so I don't have to do that. So what I mean is this. So if I Control R, I want to keep this one because this allows me to interact with the page. But if I choose this one again, then I'm fine with this choice. And we can have another one that's also like choose your avatar. I feel like if you've chosen your avatar and you've chosen which microphones, and then if something goes wrong and you need to refresh the page, I don't think we need to see those again. So if I refresh the page, I want to see this one, but I don't want to see this one again. Okay, so we can implement that. So here's how we do it. So AppSvelte has these if conditions around showing this. So this one, when you call the join callback, it actually unhides this one and shows this one. So we can look at the join callback here. This says it has this if condition. So if the mic is not confirmed, then show this is ready, otherwise this. And right now, mic not confirmed is set to true. So it always shows you that. So we can actually change this to look at window session storage, so we can get something. We can call it mic settings, which will get null. So this is the same thing. Mic, no, okay. So if this is null, so maybe we should make this a function. So we can say const is mic confirmed is a function What does this do? Const expected. Why is this underlined? Okay, so if we get something, if this is null, what do we want to do? We want to say it's not confirmed, right? So
Right.
return false. Otherwise, return true. Well, I guess we can just return this, right? So if this is null, Mike is not confirmed, so not equal null. Expression expected. Why is this underlined? I don't understand.
Does the is mean something special?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Okay, never mind.
Huh?
Oh, line 19.
Oh, up here.
Because,
Okay, yeah. All right.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, const Mike confirmed. So if it's not equal to the null, then it is confirmed. So here we can say if not Mike confirmed, then we want to show it true. Otherwise, so let's give this a constant. So const Mike confirmed Mike confirmed equal Mike confirmed. And then, so after we confirm it, which is in this confirm callback, let's we're not doing anything with it, I think, but we can stash it. So here we get the mic, we get the two device outputs. So let's just stash that. You can say window.session_storage set an item which is mic confirmed, and the value will be JSON stringify. We want to stringify this mic device ID and output device ID. Okay, so we'll put that in there when we confirm it. And so when you're joined, mic confirmed, in order to use it, I think we need to actually maybe set it. Otherwise, we're not applying it, because after you select it, so if I refresh this, after you select it, let's say I select communications and I confirm, and let's say I reload and I join here, we didn't actually use it here. So I think this should be called something else, and we have to do something to use it, which I think is this this thing. It's a little redundant, but for simplicity, I'll just copy this and put that into app. So when we say mic confirmed, if we're not confirmed, I guess we could say so if this is null, return. So if this is null, return false. It's not confirmed. Else, we got to do something. We'll return true, but we also have to apply it. So we can say constraint is, actually, let's get the value. So mic let const mic settings is this thing. So if mic settings is missing, return false. Otherwise, constraints is equal to, okay, JSON parse mic settings string const mic settings. Once we parse it, we can get mic settings dot selected mic. Is that what it was? Let's see. Mic device ID. That's what it's called. So what this does is it passes this search option. Let me indent this. And then when you call navigator get user media with these constraints, it will change the microphone to that selected device. And then I don't think we need to do anything here. So I think we're good on that front. Okay, let's see what happens. So refresh, join. Okay, so it didn't pop up. If I look over here, it is communications. So the only way to switch this out with the default is actually to close the session now. I have to close it. That should wipe away the session storage. So if I come back here, now I can set it back to default. Confirm is the default. And if I reload the page, it doesn't bug me again. Cool. Did I lose you? Was that confusing?
Not at all. I just I didn't remember that the session storage like just gets wiped out if you like exit the tab or whatever. But if you refresh, it stays. So it only exists as long as the tab is there.
For session storage, yes.
Yeah. But
And
and then there's another one, right?
right,
Type of storage.
yeah.
What was that called?
I think it's uh, Windows
Let me see.
storage or
Mm-hmm.
something else. Yeah, that one
And mm-hmm.
that one will stick around until you clear it manually, I think. Okay,
I see.
so
Okay, cool.
I'm clearing this one. And I also save your position. So when you come over here, let's say to this corner, and then you refresh, it keeps you there. Because I figure like, oh, something happened. I need to reset my state, but not reset all of my state. As long as the tab's open, we kind of keep some of it for you, like what avatar you're using, your microphone stuff, options, we'll just keep it here. But if you need a hard reset, then you close it, and then we give you a clean slate. So if you close it, you come back, you're going to get your spawn point back. So now you get this back, and you're out here again. So that's like a hard reset.
Cool.
Okay, so now I guess we can try to pull this up. So what this does is it gets a list of the entities, which we actually already have these on the page. So one thing would be create a component with a list of entities when you click the menu. So we can create a component here that's like entity list. Entities, entity list. Okay, so then we start with a script. Let's see, what goes in this here? Well, let's give it a heading. Entity list. Okay, and we need to go to the menu overlay. So when we click on this thing, we want to show the menu overlay or the entity list, for example. So let's say we can add an on click, and we can say toggle entity list. So we need to define a function. So we can say const toggle entity list is a function, and let's say show entity list is false. So let's add some state. So we say don't show it at first. And then here, let's say when you click it, we'll just reverse that. So show entity list equals the opposite of show entity list. And then, so if we click this, it changes the state, but then we need something that's going to show the entity list. So we can import the component. Okay, so we're importing this component, and then we can use the component over here. So we can just say if show entity list. If that's true, then show the entity list. So in the beginning, show entity list is false. This isn't going to show anything. When we click on the menu, it's going to toggle the entity list, and then this should show up. But it's going to need some styling because this is on top of everything. So if I don't do this right now, so if I just, let's see, refresh this, if I click on this, and I'm going to open up the inspector here. Where's the menu? Here. Here's our overlay, and here's the menu. So if I click on this, entity list showed up in the DOM somewhere, but it's actually like behind here, behind everything. So we need to pull up the Z index on it so it gets in front of it. So we can just add some styling to entity list itself. So we can throw a div around this. And because components scope their own styles, we can just put some style directly on the div tag if we wanted to. This won't affect any other div, which is pretty cool. So we can say that the width is I guess 30%, and background can be what? Background color can be this, and border 1 pixel solid red, and height 100%, and then Z index can be 4, and position absolute, top 0, left 0. Okay, and that'll get applied to this div. So now if I do that, hit the menu. Oh, where'd it go? Entity list, Svelte div. Can you search in here? Entity. Do you know how to search in here? Okay,
I don't
here,
think so.
here. Oh, there it is. Oh, maybe it just didn't
Oh,
change yet. Okay, so here's the entity list. And I can't click the menu because it's hidden there. So I guess we can give it a close button here. Let's change the background color. Let's make it black. So in this div, we can give it a close button, or times, and we can give it a div class equal close. So here we can style the close, position relative, and top 5 pixel, right 5 pixel, border 1 pixel solid green. Okay, so let's refresh. Okay, that didn't come out the way I expected. Times. Okay. Maybe this can just be a span. Oh, because it's getting a div, it's inheriting it. So let's just call this span. Okay, I need to display as a block element, I think. Calling a position relative within a position absolute should move it to the upper right, right? Top and to the right.
Yeah.
Bam. Okay, I got the top. I didn't get the right.
Let's look at the CSS again.
Yeah, I think I need to set the width, right?
Where do you want it to go?
Upper right corner.
The right corner?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Why is it still going to the left corner? Span. Maybe I just need to target this better. So let's change this to container. Class container div. We'll call this dot container. So why doesn't it position on the right?
I'm looking it up right now.
Maybe it has to be position absolute. Yeah, I am not an expert at the CSS. Oh, well, okay, that kind of works. Okay. And then we can do cursor pointer. Okay, and then we can add it on click, and this can just close itself, right? Oh, okay. We have to close it through the parent, I think, because we can't close ourselves because it would leave this component hanging around. So we can have our component pass us down. So it will just toggle the entity list. So we can pass that in. So we can pass toggle entity list as a function, pass it down to the entity list. So this is red because it says you can't pass this down as a prop, but we can add that as a prop in the script area. So we can say export let toggle entity list, and then when we click on this thing, we just do on click call the toggle entity list. I think we need to refresh. Okay, that works. So we got to open and we got to close. That's pretty cool. Didn't even need to hide this menu thing because we're covering it. We got an entity list, and now we want to show a list of entities the way we have here, right? So in order to do that, I think we can just read them from the page because we actually, in the show, we have this serialized space as a variable that we put on the window object. So if we inspect the source, You'll actually see this.
What's supposed to be in it? The entities?
A serialized space, which includes entities, which is here.
Oh, I see.
You get this thing.
Oh, mm-hmm.
So we can get entities that way. So we can say let entities equal window dot serialized space dot entities. I think that works. And then in the container, we can do an unordered list. Whoops. Damn it. And then we can say for each blank as something. How did I do it here? It is each blank as whatever. Each collection as iterator. So each entities as entity. So for every one of these, do a line item. And what is the entity here? So it's an ID, parent, name. So we can list the name. So entity name. All right. So if we do that and do that, oh, look at that. We're getting close. So if we add an entity here, this thing is reacting. This thing won't get it yet because we're not listening to any messages yet. Orchestrator is listening to messages, but the entity list here is not listening to messages. So we need to refresh this to get the cone. Now we get the cone over here. So we need to have a listener on that, because what happens is when you add a box over here in Orchestrator, we have listeners on the channel. So the channel is listening for component change, entity created. It did this. When the space channel sent something over, Orchestrator reacted to it directly. So if we wanted other people to be able to react to it, we could send it on our message bus, which is signal. And then we could break it out that way. Yeah, so we need maybe another layer here, which is one is like a scene manager to take care of all of those things, and then have a broker for the space channel. Each time you get stuff on the space channel, send it forward, I think. Yeah, I think it might be worthwhile to do that. So right now, we have all of these listeners, like space channel on this, space channel on this message, space channel on this message. But what I'm thinking of doing is adding another layer in between that takes any kind of message on space channel and just sticks it into this event bus that I have here. Because it kind of has the same format. If you look at, it's a subject of signal event, which means that signal event is a type of event with any payload, which is already kind of what you get from channels. The only problem is currently in the API on the channel side, they don't give you a way of subscribing to any message. They want you to do on something in a payload, like on something and then a payload, right? So the way to do this is maybe at a lower level. Let me see, space channel, and then I can do, let's see, join, leave, off, on, or on message, I think is the generic one. On message, and then, so on takes a callback. On message, I think, is a function. So you have to assign it your function. So our function would do this. On message equals a function, event and payload and a reference. So we take the event, which is a string, a payload, which is an any, I think. Is that what it was? Yeah. We don't care about the ref. And then so we take this signals and then we just push it in. So it takes a signal event, which is event and a payload, which is already what it was. Right? If we look at signal event, it was an event and a payload, string any. So we really just mirrored that API. Before I do that, I want to just output, because I think we get extra messages, which I think we may want to filter out. So we go on message. So before we do this, I just want to check what we're getting. So on message, getting, event, and then payload. So if we just reload this, on message callbacks must return the payload modified or unmodified. On message getting present state, on message getting different state. Okay, so we're getting stuff like Phoenix reply, Phoenix channel reply, which I don't think we want these, because these are a whole bunch of like internal messages. Phoenix reply, Phoenix channel reply, Phoenix channel reply 3. We go like this. What happens when we open this? Somebody deletes this. On message, there, on message. Okay, so we get a, oh, channel reply. Oh, okay, we get a, oh, they're numbered. Interesting. Add a cone. Add a grid. Let's move something around. Position 3. Component chain. else? We could close the menu. Interesting. So we get a whole bunch of these things. All right, so we want to ignore chan underscore and ignore phx underscore. So if event equal, or how about start with JS test string start with text start. Okay, so event starts with phx underscore, or event starts with chan underscore. Then just return the payload. Else do this. Actually, we'll still return the payload. They wanted the payload to be returned anyway. So let's do this. So if is this or this, if not this or this, do this, and then in any case, right? So if it doesn't start with Phoenix and it doesn't start with that, then do this and return. So that means that I can remove every one of these and move these into another class that's just listening to the signals, and then that other class doesn't need to be contained by this. It doesn't need to be contained in Orchestrator. And so it could be either called in Orchestrator or it could be called in a Svelte part. And Svelte doesn't need to contain Orchestrator. It just needs that signal thing. Does that seem like a good idea?
Yes.
Okay. So the
Is it
benefit
gonna work?
is it
Is
gonna
it gonna work now?
it's not gonna work yet because all I'm doing is I'm pushing messages onto the signal, but nobody's listening to it. But to prove that it works, I can create a scene manager. It's a new piece of code. And I simply instantiate the scene manager like this. Class scene manager. Let's export it. Constructor. And then I would have to move all of the scene related things from Orchestrator into the scene manager because it's responsible for all the UI stuff, right? So all of the stuff that's like create the scene. Right, because right now it's just one giant mess. Orchestrator kind of does everything there. But stuff like this, create a camera, create the skybox, we should move over there, process a skybox, scene settings, Yeah, create the scene, parse the initial scene, find or create material. All of these things should move into that manager. Forward camera movement, start, create scene. But if I want to do this gradually as a proof of concept, for right now I can just pass in a scene, and it is a type of Babylon.js.scene. And then I can import that into Orchestrator at the top. Import scene manager. So now we have the scene manager. And then in the orchestrator, we can instantiate the scene manager. So we get public scene manager equals a scene manager. And then we'll just say this scene manager equals a new scene manager, and it takes this scene. So we got to do it lower down where we have a scene. Where's the scene? So we don't have a scene, this scene, until here, create scene. Okay, so this is the first time we can actually put this in. Scene manager, complaining about this scene. Import scene is not assignable to Babylon scene. Go in here. Okay, we need to import this. Import scene from I think that'll be okay. Complaining about import, or how do we import this? Oh, we just imported everything? Okay, let's do that. Import is never used. Oh, okay, so now we have a scene in here. I think it also needs a signal. So where did we say scene manager? So we'll give it the signals as well. That will allow it to receive signals. So let's modify scene manager to also take so import type subject from our XJS, and then import type signal event from types, and then public signals, which is a subject of signal event. And then we can kind of listen for something. So here we can just console log anything we get. So signals subscribe any kind of event and payload. Let's just console log that out. So console.log scene manager getting an event and a payload. So what is this doing? Oh, should be this way. Like that. Okay, this is just to see if it's getting through. So clear this. Okay, so scene manager is getting joined. Scene manager getting present state. Scene manager. So it's getting all the messages now. So if we do this, scene manager is getting all this camera movement. If you come over here, you're getting the deletion here. So all we have to do now is start moving the code that's out here in Orchestrator that's about Babylon.js into the scene manager, and eventually in Orchestrator we can remove the Babylon.js stuff, and it's all kind of tucked away into scene manager. That also means that because it's listening to the signals over here in Svelte land, in the entity list, we can, since we get, well, we need to pass the signal down into here. But if we had it, then we can send signals on here, like, oh, I want to click and add an entity. We can send messages to Signal, but we can also receive messages on Signal. And, well, we wouldn't receive it here. The scene manager would receive it and draw things, but we could say we want to send something out on the event bus to do something.
Like what, for example?
Like delete an entity, for example. So there's a bunch
Okay.
of ways to do it. I'm just the event bus is receiving all the messages between these pieces of code, which, I mean, you could just pass in that manager into, let's see, we don't need to pass that manager in here. Scene manager. I do think we need to pass the signal in here. So like this entity list doesn't have access to the signals. App Svelte only has signals here, but we have to pass the signals down to the menu overlay, and then we'd have to pass that down to the entity list. Which is okay. We click in here, we'd have to pass this down into this entity list. Or we could pass functions down to the entity list if we don't want to pass signals down. So there's a bunch of ways to do it. Or you can make like a shared state thing, which is a little bit trickier to understand. What do you think I should do?
Not sure, but shared state thing doesn't sound good.
It's a shared state between the components. So all instead of passing the props up and down this hierarchy where you have to pass it down through here. Well, we could start with that. I don't think an additional layer because my layers aren't that deep yet. But it might be because I might have components for entity list and then you have components, right? So I could see that having quite a few layers. And then you want to call functions. And let's see, what kind of things would we have? We would have send things up, send things down. So the way that they did it was they moved it into another file called a store. And then they imported the store everywhere. Okay, so the store is instantiated, and so anywhere you import it, it's already a thing. So here we have a signal that is here. So if it's a instantiated in the file, then we have to pass it into the orchestrator as an already thing. So orchestrator would not create it then. So this is the way that I saw them create that in, so we have a, here, let's call this signal hub. I still like that name. Signal hub TypeScript. Let's just say that this is signal hub.
It got to go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Jan didn't eat yet.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, so we have to have dinner.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right,
Bye.
cool. All right, talk to you later. Bye.